welcome back to the deep dive. It seems like everyone's got an opinion on money these days.
Right.
So today we're diving into the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey.
Oh, good choice.
Olivia Smith joins us for this deep dive to break down this whole money makeover thing. So Olivia, what's the deal with this Total Money Makeover?
Well, it's kind of like getting back to basics with your money.
Back to basics.
Yeah, Ramsey says a lot of what we think we know about money, it's just myths,
Myths, like what?
Like thinking debt is a tool to build wealth.
You got to spend money
That's
to make
it.
money, right?
Exactly. But that's not always true, is it?
It's not about picking hot stocks or anything.
Not really. It's more about how we act, our habits around money, our money mindset. He's got this idea, this principle, that to win with money, it's 80% behavior and only 20% knowledge.
80% behavior. So even if I don't have a fancy finance degree, I can still turn things around if I get my mindset right.
Exactly. That's where this whole total money makeover comes in, like hitting reset on how you think about money.
I like the sound of a reset. So where do we start with this makeover?
Well, Ramsey has these 7 steps, his famous baby steps.
Okay, 7 steps.
But before we even get to those steps, he spends a good chunk of the book debunking these common myths about debt.
Debt myths. Oh, I'm sure we've all heard a few of those. Like,
One of the biggest ones is that debt is a tool to build wealth. Spend money to make money, that kind of thing.
yeah, and you hear that a lot, especially about getting a credit card to build your credit score.
Right. But Ramsey challenges that. He uses this analogy. It's like seeing a turkey flying in a tornado. You see it once, doesn't mean turkeys can actually fly.
Okay, I get it.
Just because some people get lucky with risky debt doesn't mean it's a good strategy for everyone.
So just because you see it doesn't mean it's the norm.
Exactly.
So debt actually adds a lot of risk and doesn't always lead to riches.
Right. He argues that debt, especially consumer debt, keeps people stuck paying and paying.
Keeps them from building real wealth.
Exactly. He's also really against payday loans and rent-to-own schemes, thinks they take advantage of people who are already struggling.
Made sense.
He wants people to see there's a smarter, better way to handle money.
Okay, so once we ditch the debt myths, where do we start this total money makeover? What's step 1?
The first baby step is setting up a starter emergency fund. Just $1,000.
Just $1,000. Why not go bigger right away?
Ramsey's all about building momentum,
Yeah.
Celebrating those small wins.
Small wins, okay.
He knows that for someone living paycheck to paycheck, saving even $1,000 can feel huge.
Just starting point, right?
Like that first push to get the snowball rolling.
So it's about building confidence, proving you can save.
You got it. And once you have that starter emergency fund, you can move on to baby step 2.
Okay, we're on baby step 2.
That's where the real debt crushing begins.
This is where that famous dead snowball comes in, right?
You know it.
I've heard good things about it, but I gotta admit, it sounds a little gimmicky to me.
I get it. It seems weird to focus on the smallest debts first, even if they don't have the highest interest.
So it's not just about saving money on interest.
It's about the psychology of it, too.
Okay, tell me more.
If you're buried in debt, it can feel impossible to get out, right?
Oh yeah, totally overwhelming.
The debt snowball, it's about breaking down that huge, scary debt into smaller pieces you can actually handle.
Bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. You see progress, you get motivated, and you've got the energy to keep going, tackle those bigger debts.
I can see how that would work.
It's like that feeling when you check something off your to-do list.
Love that feeling. Okay, so we've got our starter emergency fund and we're chipping away at those debts. What's next in this makeover?
Baby step 3. Build a fully funded emergency fund. This time, 3 to 6 months of expenses.
Okay, so bigger this time? Why so much?
Ramsey calls it Murphy repellent.
Murphy repellent. I'm intrigued. Who's Murph?
Think of Murphy as everything that could go wrong. Car breaks down, surprise medical bills, you lose your job, things that can really mess with your finances if you're not ready.
So it's like a safety net for those unexpected things.
Exactly. Ramsey says this turns big financial crises into just bumps in the road.
Because you're prepared.
Yeah.
You've got the money set aside.
Right. He tells all these stories in the book about how this fund helped people through tough times without going into debt.
That's got to be a good feeling.
Peace of mind, right? Knowing you're ready for whatever happens.
Definitely less stressful than scrambling for money. Okay, emergency fund, check. Debt snowball, rolling. What's next?
Time to start building wealth for the future. That's baby step 4. Investing 15% of your income before taxes into retirement.
15%. That feels like a lot when you're still paying off debt and building that emergency fund.
I know it seems like a lot, But Ramsey believes it's super important to start investing early.
To take advantage of compound interest.
Exactly. He's got this example of Joe and Susie Average, this couple who invests 15% consistently and ends up with like $8 million for retirement.
Wow, $8 million. Okay, I see your point.
It's about playing the long game, letting your money grow over time, and hey, you've already tackled that debt, built your emergency fund, so you've got more breathing room now.
Makes sense. Okay, retirement investing, check. What about saving for our kids' college?
That's baby step 5. And Ramsey has some strong opinions about college savings.
Strong opinions.
He's not a fan of student loans at all, sees them as a huge burden on young people.
I've had those horror stories about student loan debt.
Right. He believes there are plenty of other ways to pay for college without drowning in debt.
Like what? Scholarships?
Scholarships are great, but he also suggests starting at a community college for the first 2 years, then transferring to a 4-year university.
That's a smart move.
Way more affordable. And he says try looking at underserved areas, places where the government might help with tuition if you're willing to work there after you graduate.
Interesting. So being creative, exploring options.
Exactly. The goal is to get the knowledge, not end up with a fancy degree and a ton of debt.
That's such a good point for parents and students to hear. Okay, we've covered retirement and college. What's next?
Baby step 6 is the big one, paying off your mortgage early.
Owning your home free and clear.
He talks about this woman, Al, who celebrated becoming debt-free by running out to her backyard and feeling the grass under her bare feet.
I love that.
It's about that feeling of freedom, owning your own place without that mortgage hanging over you.
That must feel incredible. So what's the final baby step?
Baby step 7 is all about building wealth and giving.
So finally get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. Ramsey believes wealth isn't just about stacking up cash, it's about using it to live a good life.
The good life, okay.
And he focuses on 3 things: fun, investing, and giving back.
So it's not all about deprivation and sacrifice.
Not at all. He even talks about reaching a point called the pinnacle point. It's where your investments make enough money to cover all your expenses.
So you get to the top of the mountain and coast.
Exactly. You reach a point where your money works harder than you do. And that includes giving back. Ramsey believes giving back is essential for a good financial life.
Makes sense.
He tells a story about his friend who buys bikes for kids in a poor neighborhood, just showing how wealth can make a difference.
That's inspiring. Using money as a tool for good.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. Debunking those debt myths, those baby steps, that whole Murphy repellent thing. Seems like Ramsey's Total Money Makeover is about more than just, like, financial tricks, right?
It's about changing your whole mindset about money.
It's about being in control, right?
Absolutely. Making your spending reflect what you care about, creating a life that makes sense for you and your finances.
This has been really eye-opening. Before we move on, what stands out to you the most about Ramsey's philosophy? What really clicks for you?
What gets me is how much he focuses on changing your behavior to succeed with money. It's not some secret formula. It's about the choices you make every single day, the habits you build, that mindset shift.
I totally agree. It's about realizing we all have the power to change our situation no matter where we're starting from.
And he's really clear that it's a journey, not a quick fix. There will be bumps, but the reward of being financially free is totally worth it.
It's about being in it for the long haul.
Exactly.
So for our listeners, let's bring this home. Think about your money right now. What's one small step you could take today to start your own total money makeover?
That's a good question. Even just tracking your spending for a week can be huge.
Just seeing where your money actually goes.
Right. It helps you figure out where you can cut back, make some changes.
Being mindful of your habits.
Yeah, exactly. Just that first step, no matter how small, can get you moving in the right direction.
This has been such a great deep dive into the Total Money Makeover. We've tackled the myths about debt, the importance of those emergency funds, and the power of investing consistently. But there's even more to uncover. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're still exploring Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. We talked about those baby steps before the break. But, are there any, common traps people fall into even when they're trying to follow the plan?
Oh, totally. Ramsey calls them gazelle intensity killers. Things that can totally sabotage your progress, even if you're super motivated at first.
Gazelle intensity killers. Okay, I got to know more about this. So it's not enough just to know the steps. You have to watch out for these pitfalls, too.
Exactly. And one of the biggest ones is trying to do too much too soon.
Trying to do everything at once.
Yeah, like trying to run a marathon without training. You just burn out, you know?
Pace yourself.
Right. Remember, this whole money makeover, it's a journey, not a sprint.
Okay, so pace yourself. What else?
Another trap is comparing yourself to other people.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to do.
You see people getting out of debt faster or building wealth quicker, and you start feeling bad, you know?
It's so easy to get discouraged,
Yeah.
especially with social media and everything.
But Ramsey, he reminds us that everyone's financial journey is different, you know?
Different starting points, different goals.
Exactly. You might have different challenges. What matters is you're making progress at your own pace.
That's such a good point. It's easy to lose sight of your own goals when you're focused on what everyone else is doing.
Right. And then there's lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep.
Yeah, as you start making more money, it's tempting to upgrade your life to match, you know?
Oh, yeah, I've been there. A little raise, and suddenly you need a nicer car, bigger apartment.
Exactly. But Ramsey, he warns about falling for that. He says the key to building real, lasting wealth is to live below your means,
Even as you're making more money.
especially as you're making more. Remember, it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about that financial security, that freedom for you and your family.
It's about focusing on your own goals.
Right. Not getting distracted by those shiny objects.
Speaking of shiny objects, what about impulse buying?
Oh yeah, impulse buying. Those little purchases that seem harmless but can really add up.
I am so guilty of that. Online shopping has not helped.
Ramsey suggests a 24-hour rule for anything that's not a necessity. You know, wait a day before you buy it. If you still really want it after 24 hours, then go for it.
That's smart. It gives you time to cool down.
Right. Think about if you really need it or just want it in the moment. And then there are those get-rich-quick schemes.
Oh, yeah, those are always tempting. Make $1 million overnight.
Right. But Ramsey, he's all about building wealth slowly and steadily. It's making those smart choices, being disciplined, sticking to your goals, no shortcuts.
No magic bullet.
Exactly. And he even warns about borrowing from your 401k.
Borrowing from your retirement savings.
He calls it a financial disaster waiting to happen. You're basically raiding your future to cover stuff now.
Taking from your future self.
Plus, you'll probably get hit with penalties and taxes on top of it. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
And Peter's going to be pretty upset when he retires.
Exactly. So those are just some of those common traps people fall into. Being aware of them can save you a lot of trouble.
Okay, we know those baby steps. We know those traps to avoid. How do you actually put those steps into action?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Ramsey really believes in living on a written budget.
A written budget.
Yeah, he thinks it's the foundation of a solid financial plan. But a lot of people, they dread the whole budgeting thing.
It can feel so restrictive, you know, like you're limiting yourself.
I get it.
Yeah.
But Ramsey, he has a different take. He says a budget isn't about taking away your freedom. It's about giving you control.
Control, okay. Control over what exactly?
Control over your money.
Makes sense.
It's about deciding where your money goes, making those conscious choices. It's about making your money work for you, not the other way around.
He talks about building a house, right? You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint.
Exactly. You need a plan. A budget is like your financial blueprint. It helps you see your income, your expenses, where you want to go with your money.
Keeps you on track.
And he's all about the zero-based budget.
Zero-based, what's that mean?
It means every dollar has a job. You know, you account for every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out.
So it's not just tracking what you spend. It's deciding ahead of time where it's all going.
Right. You're being proactive, not just reacting to things. And here's a tip. When you're making your budget, start by figuring out your needs versus your wants.
Needs versus wants. Got it.
Your needs are the essentials, right?
Yeah.
Housing, food, transportation, healthcare.
And wants are the things that are nice to have, but not essential.
Exactly. Entertainment, eating out, travel. Ramsey says focus on those needs first, then use any leftover money for your wants.
Makes sense. Essentials first, then the fun stuff.
Right. He also suggests using the envelope system for certain categories where you tend to overspend.
The envelope system,
Yeah.
like literally putting cash in envelopes.
It sounds old school, I know, but it works.
So you'd have an envelope for groceries, an envelope for eating out, that kind of thing.
Exactly. You put a certain amount of cash in each envelope at the beginning of the month. Once the cash is gone, you're done spending in that category.
It's like a visual reminder of your spending limits.
It really helps people who are trying to break the credit card habit. It makes you think before you spend.
Okay, so you've got your budget set up.
Yeah.
Any other practical tips for sticking to it, avoiding overspending?
Ramsey talks a lot about meal planning.
Oh, yeah, meal planning. A total lifesaver.
It helps you save so much time and money, right?
And it helps you cut down on food waste.
Exactly. It stops those last-minute takeout orders. And he's a big fan of packing your lunch.
Brown bagging it.
He even says make extra dinner and use the leftovers for lunch the next day.
2 meals in one. I like it.
He's also big on finding cheap ways to have fun. You know, instead of going to the movies, have a family game night.
Makes sense.
Instead of those expensive concerts, find free ones in your community. Think outside the box. Find ways to enjoy yourself without spending a ton. And don't forget about negotiating.
Negotiating. What do you mean?
Everything. Cable bill, internet bill, car insurance.
I never thought about negotiating those things. You might be surprised how much you can save just by asking. Ramsey even says to try negotiating when you buy a car or a house.
Really? I always thought those prices were set in stone.
It never hurts to ask, right? Worst they can say is no.
True. He also says to watch out for those little fees that can add up.
Oh yeah, ATM fees, overdraft fees, late fees, all those little things. They can really get you if you're not careful.
Nickel and diming you to death.
Exactly. So be careful, be proactive.
And what about finding an accountability partner?
That's a great idea. It can really help to have someone to check in with,
Someone to share your goals with.
Right. Someone to celebrate your successes with. It can make the whole journey more fun and less overwhelming, like a financial cheerleader. Okay, we've covered a lot here. Those financial traps, budgeting, tips for saving. It's clear that Ramsey's Total Money Makeover is more than just rules, right?
It's totally about changing your mindset around money
Building good habits.
and taking charge of your financial future.
This has been so insightful, Olivia.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment to think about this. What's one little change you could make today to start moving towards your own Total Money Makeover?
That's a good one. It could be setting up a budget tracker, packing your lunch tomorrow, or maybe even just brainstorming some fun, cheap things to do this weekend.
Every little bit counts, right?
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection. Don't worry about doing everything perfectly right away. Just make the effort and celebrate those wins along the way.
This deep dive has really got me thinking about my own financial habits, where I can make some changes. And we're just getting started. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, and it's really got me thinking about my own finances,
Yeah, it definitely challenges how we think about money.
For sure. It makes you question some of those things we just accept as normal.
Like thinking debt is just part of life.
Exactly. But Ramsey says getting rid of debt, that's key to being financially free.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's say you're ready to tackle that debt. Where do you even begin?
Well, we talked about that debt snowball, right? Paying off the smallest debts first to get that momentum going.
Right, the debt snowball.
But Ramsey also talks about being gazelle intense, about getting out of debt.
Gazelle intense.
Hmm.
I love that. What does he mean by that?
He compares it to a gazelle running from, like, a cheetah.
Okay, fleeing for its life.
Right. You got to be laser focused, using all your energy to escape, in this case, escape from debt.
So it's not just about making the minimum payments. It's about attacking that debt with everything you've got.
You got it. It might mean making some sacrifices, selling stuff you don't need, maybe even picking up extra work, whatever it takes.
Getting creative.
The point is to treat debt like a real emergency and do everything you can to get rid of it. Ramsey also talks about having a why for getting out of debt.
Oh, why?
Yeah, like a deeper reason. Connect your money goals to something bigger. Maybe you want to spend more time with your family or travel the world or give back to your community.
It's not just about the money itself.
Exactly. It's about the life you want, the reasons why you want to be financially free.
I like that, having a purpose behind it. Okay,
Yes.
so you've paid off your debt, you've built that solid foundation. Now it's time to think about building wealth.
Right. And that's where investing comes in.
But investing can feel so intimidating, especially if you don't have a lot of experience.
I get it. It can feel overwhelming. But Ramsey, he says it doesn't have to be complicated. He's got this simple, low-cost approach that anyone can use.
Okay, keep it simple. What's his approach?
He suggests investing in these low-cost, diversified mutual funds, specifically growth stock mutual funds.
Okay, now I've heard of mutual funds, but what exactly is a growth stock mutual fund?
So a mutual fund, it's basically a bunch of stocks that are managed by a professional.
Okay, a basket of stocks.
Right. So instead of picking individual stocks, which is risky, you invest in a bunch of stocks at once. It spreads out your risk.
Makes sense, less risk.
And a growth stock mutual fund that focuses on companies that are expected to grow really fast, right?
Yeah, these are usually newer, more innovative companies. They have potential for bigger returns, but they can also be a little riskier.
Higher reward, higher risk.
Right. But Ramsey's all about investing for the long haul, like 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
And that helps balance out the risk.
Got it. So we're investing in these growth stock mutual funds. How much should we be putting in, and where do you even find these funds?
Well, remember baby step 4, investing 15% of your income before taxes into retirement.
All right, 15%.
He says stick with that 15% for all your long-term investments. And you can find these funds through different brokerage firms. Plenty of them offer low-cost options.
Okay, good to know. And he talks a lot about not freaking out when the market takes a dip, right? Oh yeah, that's important. The market goes up and down, and it's totally natural to feel stressed when you see your investments drop.
That's the scary part.
But Ramsey, he keeps reminding us that these dips are totally normal. The market always bounces back eventually.
So it's about staying calm, not making any rash decisions.
Exactly. Stay the course, keep investing, and think long term. He compares it to planting a tree. You wouldn't dig it up every time the weather changes, right?
No way. You let it grow.
You nurture it, give it time, and eventually it will bear fruit.
That's a great analogy. Patience and consistency. So now you've got your debt under control, you've got your emergency fund, and you're investing for the future. Ramsey says this is where you really start to experience financial freedom, right?
Right. It's time to enjoy it.
That's what we like to hear. What does that look like?
Well, remember that last baby step. Build wealth and give.
Right, baby step 7.
This is where you can enjoy the rewards, do the things you love, and make a difference in the world.
It's about living a good life.
Exactly. And remember that pinnacle point. It's where your investments are making enough money to cover all your expenses.
Passive income.
You're not trading your time for money anymore. You're free to chase your dreams, spend time with your family, give back to others, whatever you want.
That sounds amazing.
It's about being truly independent and living a life that has meaning.
Not just being rich, but living a life you love.
Exactly. And Ramsey stresses that wealth isn't just about having a ton of money, it's about using it wisely and generously.
Giving back.
Right. He believes giving back is a crucial part of having a good financial life. It's recognizing that we're all connected and that we can help each other.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, here we are at the end of our deep dive into the Total Money Makeover. What a journey it's been. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners, Olivia?
I think the most important thing to remember is that anyone can achieve financial freedom if they're willing to put in the work and follow Ramsey's principles. It's not about luck or privilege. It's about making smart choices, building those good habits, and having a clear vision for your future.
It's about taking control and creating the life you want.
Exactly.
This has been so eye-opening, Olivia. Thank you for joining us. And for our listeners, remember, this deep dive was about giving you the knowledge. Now it's up to you to take action. What's one step you can take today to start your own total money makeover?